Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our three sports-loving ladies. Mia O'Brien, Lauren Brooks, and Taylor Dahl.
Hey.
This is Helmets and Heels
On 1010XL, switched on by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
Show me what you got, pretty lady.
Well, the sun is shining here on the First Coast. It's a Sunshine Turf Friday. Hope everybody out there was safe last night. Hope that power has returned for those who lost it. Certainly, people with generators always sit back and kind of smile and laugh at those of us without generators when the power goes out. But yeah, hopefully everybody's safe in this area. And certainly, like I said yesterday, thoughts and prayers with the area that was going to be directly affected. And seeing pictures and videos from this morning, it looks like it certainly took a toll, that Helene.
Yeah, my brother's heading out to the Panhandle, Tallahassee right now. He does contracting work, but he's one of the people that go and fix like restaurants and certain buildings if they get a ton of damage. So he was sending me some videos this morning, and it's full restaurants just completely wiped out, which it's really scary. We talk about here, trees and limbs falling, and some people get a little bit of flooding, and we have a lot of power outages right now, but seeing some of that is it's so sad because also a lot of these people, Steinhatchee too, they just got obliterated again, and they just were able to build back up. So that part of the Panhandle and that part of Florida has kind of the last few years got hit many times. So it's really sad. But so thoughts and prayers to all of them because they have another rebuilding to have to do. Hopefully everyone's safe on the most part.
Absolutely. All right. So let's get it to Jaguars football. All week, I feel like I've been very negative for, I think, obvious reasons.
Yeah.
You as well.
Yes.
Right? Like Mia too. And Mia, by the way, is on assignment today. She'll be back with us on Monday to break down, hopefully, a Jaguars victory over the Texans. I haven't had a lot of faith in this team because, to me, it was the effort, or the lack of effort, I should say, the lack of energy that they displayed against the Browns. Week one, I just thought, all right, well, the Dolphins have this high-powered offense, and so it's no surprise that the Dolphins were able to come back and win. The Jaguars didn't score in the second half. You're not going to win a lot of games when that happens. But I said, okay, that the defense played fairly well, and the offense will figure it out.
Yeah.
And then the lack of energy against the Browns in the home opener should have been a sign to me that things weren't going to go well against the Bills Monday night, Taylor. But I always have this optimism, and so because the Jaguars had beaten the Bills twice over the last 3 years, I thought, okay, they're going to get on track. What we saw Monday night was so much of a disaster that now it is hard to think positively about this team. But if, and this is a ginormous if the Jaguars somehow, some way can start fast the way the Vikings did against the Texans, the Vikings were up 14-0 after the first quarter. If the Jaguars could start off to that kind of a lead, then I do think, and I know they had a lead against the Dolphins and they withered it away, fumbled it away, I really should say. But if they can get off to that fast of a start, then maybe we will see them figure some stuff out. Both teams are pretty beaten up. We'll get to the injury report later, but they certainly have a chance if they get off to a fast start. But can you? Yeah, can they?
Yeah. And I think you want to get to a fast start, but I think you also have to be consistent from start to finish. And it's something I've said many times. I just really haven't seen, maybe outside of 1 or 2 games the last 2 years. And so that's concerning to me because at some point, the best teams in the league are the ones that can do that. They'll have the 1 or 2 off games, but for the most part, they are consistent. And it's the opposite for the Jags. They have the 1 or 2 games that are consistent and feel like, okay, this is it. This is the game where everything gets on track. And then it kind of goes haywire for a little while. And so I was thinking about this a lot last night because I did a podcast last night with previewing the Bears-Rams game, but it brought the conversation of Sean McVay. And because obviously the Rams just beat the Niners this last weekend, and the Rams are a mess right now. Their defense is really bad. They've allowed the second most passing yards in the league, I think third most rushing yards, most passing touchdowns. So the defense is a mess. Obviously, Aaron Donald's not there, so that's one of the big factors in that. They also lost Ernest Jones to the AFC South, but in addition to that, no Puka Nacua, no Cooper Kupp, and so they're really relying on Matthew Stafford trying to make other things happen in the run game. But that just shows how important someone like Sean McVay is. And that's really what got me thinking about it, because I know, obviously, you want players to play better here all around. But I do think in a certain light, it does come down to the coaching, too. And when you have a team that you feel like does have the pieces to where things should be better, to me, it's starting to boil down to that higher level. And we did talk about it a little bit yesterday, but how much can Doug and Press and Ryan Nielsen kind of lift these guys to that next level and make their coaching in a time when you just feel like you need to dig yourself out of a hole? The coaches should be the one to be able to bring you to that next level. And guys like Sean McVay can do that. Guys like Andy Reid and Shanahan and Mike McDaniel and Mike Tomlin.
Matt LaFleur.
LaFleur has been really good, and that was a name he dropped yesterday because he worked with McVay in L.A. And so these guys are coaches that even when things aren't perfect, even honestly when things are really messy and there's a lot of injuries, those coaches can get you out of some of these games that you should probably lose. And so you need a little bit of that too. You need these players to play better, but you also need these coaches to get you through. Just get us through a one or two until this offense starts getting on track.
Yeah, here in Florida, you look to Steve Spurrier and Bobby Bowden, and those guys, when their teams, I know it's college, not pro, but when those guys were on the sideline, the team had more faith in each other, themselves as a whole, because they knew that their coach was going to outsmart and outcoach the other guy time in and time out. And so winning was always the standard in the culture, and losing was very rare. Here, it's the exact opposite. And I really did think that after 2022 and the way that season ended with some of those crazy comeback victories, that, okay, now this franchise has turned the corner, and Doug Peterson is the answer. And he's going to be that guy where players are able to give that extra, 10% to be able to make the play, go above the X's and O's because of him. And then the way last year ended and the way this year has started, are the players... Is there a disconnect between the players and Doug Peterson? We are trying to figure that out, but we haven't gotten there yet. But I'll give you another way. You mentioned Ryan Nielsen, the way that the Vikings were able to attack the Texans. They sacked Stroud 4 times, and they picked him off twice, which is very rare error for Stroud. That was his first time throwing an interception in 10 starts. Can the Jaguars get that kind of pressure? I feel like, to your point, they have the players that can harass quarterbacks. We haven't seen it yet, but I feel like those guys are on that defensive line. Can they get after Stroud time and time again? Can they make him, put him in uncomfortable situations? That's what we have to find out on Sunday. Yeah,
and we talk about it too. That's when you say you have film on guys now, and last year, rookie season, CJ Stroud, and the big question this offseason was, is that who he is? Or now that people do have all of this film and can game plan around him, how much can they figure things out? And so even some of the best in the league, we've talked about those numbers with Josh Allen when it comes to the zone coverage and man coverage. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and you can still figure out weaknesses if you watch film, and you just have to be smart enough to game plan against those moments. So the same things will happen with Stroud. People are starting to figure out the things that maybe do make him feel a little uneasy, and when you're talking about maybe a struggling offensive line, you've got to take advantage of that. And so that's what this weekend to me is about, not only being able to pressure him, but also take advantages of their weaknesses this weekend, which seems like it may be no Tank Dell, and now Nico Collins got added yesterday too. That's massive, in addition to no Joe Mixon, most likely no Joe Mixon or Dameon Pierce, so they're on to their third running back. That you have to take advantage of all 3 levels at that point, because they're pretty much giving you the recipe for a win.
And this team has made me, I feel like I went from disappointed to now like anger, because they haven't been able to do that.
It's like the 5 stages of grief.
Correct. That's exactly what I thought. I'm in those stages of how did we get here? Yeah. Like the season started off so promising in the first half against the Dolphins, and it's just gone to heck since then. And it makes me angry because I do think that they have a good roster. They just aren't playing like they've ever played together, right? Like whenever you watch international soccer teams that like have never actually spent time together, right? Like let's just say Italy, right? They all play on different club teams, and then all of a sudden they come together. It's not going to be cohesive right away, because they're not used to playing with one another. That's what I feel like the Jaguars are, is a team that they're all stars in their own, not all, but there's a lot of stars in their own regard, but yet they've never actually practiced together, never played together. How is that possible? We shouldn't even be talking about, this player didn't play in the preseason or they didn't play enough in the preseason. We're in week 4 now.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a conversation.
Yeah, you can have those conversations in week 1 and 2, I think, because you are, especially with the lack of contact in the training camp and then even preseason, nobody's really playing. And so those first 2 weeks, you do see a lot of, especially if you have a decent amount of new pieces, which honestly the Jags on both sides had a handful of new starters on each side of the ball. So you are trying to figure things out. But when you are into week 3 and then now going into week 4, those people should start kind of forming some sort of consistency. And you also got to say, the secondary's beat up right now. Everybody in the Jag secondary is kind of battling something. And so maybe that is part of it. Maybe some of those, the people that were all used to practicing and playing together that we were really counting on being massive parts of the secondary aren't there. And how much is that affecting other levels? And we will see as maybe some of these people get back or more of these guys get more reps together. But and that's what when you're going back to that anger, and it does turn into that because you do feel like this offseason, the whole talk was, yes, Texans, but the Jags are right there. The amount of people that we talked to around the NFL, not even just the AFC South, that were like, the Jags are there. They're right behind the Texans. And some people were like, maybe better than the Texans, honestly, because you're counting on CJ Stroud to be the exact same player as he was last year? Is that possible? They talked about all the weapons in Houston and stuff like that. But there wasn't a person we talked to that said the Jags are going to be a mess. And so, no, one single person. And so there's something beyond the roster, what's on paper. And we've seen it before. It's not like Jags are the only team who have had this paper roster where you're like, this team could win a playoff game, and then all of a sudden things just go kind of crazy. There's a lot of things that have to go right, and that starts with the offense. Obviously, we blame, we put some blame on Trevor, we put some blame on the offensive line and maybe not being able to run the ball the right way, but at the end of the day, it's 20 different things that have to go perfectly right for a play to end up the way you want the play to go. And it just feels like none of those 20 things are working at this point, and eventually they have to.
And when you look at a team like the Vikings, who beat the Texans so handily, 34-7, Darnold wasn't
a part of the team last year.
Yeah. But it's a seamless transition to him. They were probably splitting reps as far as in the offseason between J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And yet they're still at a point, because of coaching and cohesiveness, that they are able to have Darnold throw 4 touchdown passes against the Texans.
It does help having the cheat code of Justin Jefferson. That is a massive. But they don't even have Jordan Addison right now, and that's what's even crazier.
And I thought that's what Brian Thomas Jr. would be. And I'm not saying immediately he'd be as good as Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson of those guys, but I do think that is the potential is absolutely there.
Yeah.
One other stat that stood out to me as far as the Vikings beating the Texans and what I think the Jaguars need to try to replicate, Aaron Jones had over 100 yards on the ground, and he had 46 yards receiving with a touchdown catch. The Jaguars have backs that can do that between Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. So you've got to be able to keep CJ Stroud on the sideline and be able to, as Travis Etienne told Mia, matriculate the ball down the field, actually have a good time of possession at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And you look up and you're going to feel a lot better about yourselves because the offense got into a rhythm.
Yeah, and honestly, at this point, a lot of the things I said in the offseason and the preseason and kind of going into when I did the I want to boot because I wanted to feel like the offense could be consistent and didn't need help by penalties or didn't need these miracle 3rd and 17 plays and stuff like that. At this point, I'm just take as much as the clock as you can get because I don't trust the offense to be able to consistently score. So if you can take 9, 10, 11 minutes off the clock and make sure that when you're in the red zone, you score out of that, go ahead and do that until you find your comfort in the offense.
Yeah, it's got to be where Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, and Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, we see them on the sidelines high-fiving because they finally are getting to a point where everything is flowing and it's not the screaming at one another. And yes, of course, the offensive line has to play way better. I don't know what's going to change that because they have certainly not have the tackles, especially have not played well.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're miraculously going to start playing well, but it needs to happen. And Trevor needs to feel comfortable back there in the pocket.
I want to have fun again, like the
For
clip,
real.
The clip that is going around of the Bills team just singing that going out of my cage and now we're doing, and they're all just bopping around, singing, having a great time, and I'm like, I want that. I want to have fun.
The last time it was fun was last year.
Yeah,
but it feels feels like it was so long ago because they lost 5 out of 6 and now 0-3. All right, we will get to the Fair and Fair injury report and the latest when it comes to that when we return. You are listening to Helmets and Heels, and it's a Sunshine Turf Friday. You can visit them online at sunshineturf.info or call 904-383-0243. They do such a great job. If your backyard is just soaked with mud and rain and all that stuff, you want artificial turf. It is maintenance free. You will absolutely love it. We'll be back on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Defense just stepping up and playing dominant.
A strong fence protects your yard like a stout defense protects the bank.
Number 1 takeaway defense.
Each week, Superior Fence and Rail presents the Defensive Player of the Game on 1010XL.
Imagine driving a late model Corvette, BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, Honda, Chevy, Ford, and more, all at a fraction of the original sticker price. Visit Vaughn Motor Group's indoor showroom and browse a great selection of dream cars that are inspected with warranties. Before you make your next auto purchase, check out Vaughn Motor Group on San Jose Boulevard or at vaughnmotorgroup.com for a complete inventory listing. If you can dream it, you can drive it at Vaughn Motor Group.
Mia here. I know the hurricane just blew through, but it is hot outside, folks, and that means your AC better be blowing nice and cold on the inside. If for any reason it's not, my friends at Duck Duck Air Conditioning are here to help. Their qualified service techs can handle any type of cooling issue at your home or business. So don't deal with the summer heat outside and inside. Give Duck Duck AC a call today to schedule service. 904-862-6769 or online at duckduckac.com. Duck Duck AC is a licensed mechanical contractor.
Liquid Sunshine, a car wash committed to superior customer service. Like including bug prep done for you every time. Experience the difference, starting at just $10 at Liquid Sunshine Car Wash on Southside near Hogan Road.
Daly's Dash is not only your Jaguars game day stop, but a great place to grab a meal any day of the week. To honor the Jags and the fans, we've crafted the Duval Sub. The Duval comes with freshly sliced turkey ham, melted cheddar and habanero jack cheese, topped with crisp lettuce, fresh tomatoes, and a double portion of our secret sauce, all served on a fresh roll. Come by your local's Daly's Dash today to get your delicious Duval Sub. Daly's is the official convenience store sponsor of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Pregame Friday is brought to you by MyBookie and Dream Finders Homes on 1010XL.
Mia here. We are getting so much love through the text line with people cashing in at MyBookie. I've been betting too, and it makes the game so much more fun. This weekend, the Vikings visit the Packers in a divisional game. Both defenses have been awesome this year. Give me the under 45.5 at MyBookie. Your home team, meanwhile, an underdog on the road in H-Town. If you're into winning money, take that bet. Texans -6.5. Although the line has shifted a bit. And on Sunday Night Football, I see nothing but fireworks between the Bills and the Ravens. Give me the over 46.5. For a limited time, MyBookie is bringing back the double deposit bonus. Use promo code 1010XL to claim a bonus that doubles your money on your very first deposit. Double that money with promo code 1010XL before you even place a bet. Sign up using that promo code in order to make some big money this football season. Bet on anything, anytime, anywhere, and make your season a winning season with MyBookie.
Mark Watson with Hardball Creative. Are the company's Zoom calls getting boring? Might be a good time to order some new logo caps or temporary tattoos. Check them out online at hardballcreative.com.
Hardball Creative. Hardball does it all.
Sunshine Turf Friday.
When you're a little kid on the playground, they tell you don't hit back. Well, the courtroom isn't a playground. And if you've suffered an injury or death in your family, I'm here to tell you it's okay to hit back and fight to make them pay. I'm attorney Brett Hastings, and at Hastings Injury Law, we understand all the pain and emotion that comes with being wrong. And we've dedicated our lives to making things right for people like you. So if you get hit back with Hastings Injury Law. Offices, Jacksonville.
Bold City Brewery, established in 2008, is the oldest craft brewery in Jacksonville and proud to celebrate 16 years of brewing greatness in Duval. 2 locations serving delicious beers, seltzers, ciders, all produced in-house. Check out Bold City downtown on Bay Street or hit the production house and restaurant on Roselle Street in Riverside. Bold City Brewery, with something for everyone, brewing great beers and serving fantastic food to all of Duval. Log on and be bold. BoldCityBrewery.com.
What is the only team in the NFL to neither host nor play in the Super Bowl? The answer coming up.
Having the right homeowner's policy protection means you're staying on top of your most valuable possession, your home. For information on finding an agent, go to southernoak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
The only team in the NFL that hasn't hosted or played in the Super Bowl? The Cleveland Browns.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
You can't go inside your home team's locker room, so Jags beat reporter Hayes Carline goes there for you.
Work on three, work on three, 1, 2, 3, work!
Hayes Carline here. Find my blog at 1010xl.com.
Brought to you by Roland Reach Plumbing, where quality and experience count.
When all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. I'm Dr. George Bari, and like me, I know you have been bombarded with PRP and stem cell treatments from companies that promise the world and charge prices to match. Or the surgeon that convinced you the only way to treat your injuries through surgery. At Bari Orthopedics, we offer the best PRP treatment on the market with prices that won't cost you an arm and a leg. We also have the expertise to treat your injury surgically if that is what it entails. We can discuss all surgical and non-surgical options with you and make sure you get the best treatment available. Come see me, Dr. George Bari at Bari Orthopedics.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
Taylor Dahl is here. RJ Saunders is here. I'm Lauren Brooks. Mia O'Brien on assignment. She'll rejoin us on Monday. Taylor, are you ready for this injury report?
I guess. Here we go.
It is a lengthy one. RJ hit it.
The personal injury attorneys of Farah & Farah present this injury update. Farah & Farah,
Jacksonville.
Exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So the final injury report with the status for each player will come out later today, but this is the injury report as of yesterday afternoon. 3 Jaguars did not practice. Tight end Evan Ingram with a hamstring injury. Doug Peterson spoke with media this morning, and he said that Evan is doubtful for Sunday. Then 2 linebackers also did not practice. Foye Oluokun with a foot injury, and Devin Lloyd was added to the report yesterday with a knee injury. Doug said this morning that it is just soreness. Foye Oluokun, of course, we had that report from Tom Pelissero saying that it's plantar fasciitis. He's expected to miss weeks, so I'm not expecting Foye to play on Sunday. And then 7 Jaguars were limited in practice yesterday. Running back Tank Bigsby with the shoulder. Safety Darnell Savage with a quad injury. Doug said this morning we'll see about Savage. Left tackle Cam Robinson with a knee injury. Right tackle Anton Harrison also with a knee injury. Wide receiver Gabe Davis with a shoulder injury. Cornerback Jarian Jones with a shoulder injury. And cornerback Monteric Brown with a chest injury. He was added after the game and the loss to the Bills. As for the Texans, 4 players did not practice. Wide receiver Tank Dell with a chest injury, running back Joe Mixon with an ankle injury, running back Damian Pierce with a hamstring injury, and safety Jimmy Ward with a groin injury. As we've talked to a couple different people from out of Houston this week, like you said earlier, Taylor, it seems like Joe Mixon and Damian Pierce will not play. Tank Dell and Nico Collins added yesterday, like you said, are up in the air. 2 Texans were limited. Defensive tackle Foley Fatukasi with a shoulder injury, and then, of course, Nico with that hamstring injury. So, again, later today we'll have the statuses for whether or not they will be questionable, out, things like that. My guess is no Evan Ingram on Sunday, no Foye Oluokun on Sunday, and all the other guys should be able to go.
What are we hearing? Lloyd, I'm guessing, just got added, so hopefully
Doug said that was just knee soreness.
Okay. I mean, I think that both sides of this injury report are not what you want to see going into week 4. I've been seeing injury reports around the league, though, that are this long, and so it's another thing that I think factors into the lack of actual hits when it comes to the offseason and the preseason. So many guys are getting banged up early on because they're just not having that consistent or even, honestly, full contact ever that they should have to prepare themselves for a season. And I get it. You're like, you want to save the bodies for the regular season, but you also have to prepare the bodies for the regular season of getting hit by these massive men that are all over the football field. Evan Ingram, that's the crappy thing about a hamstring is it just lingers. And when you see, obviously, over for Nico Collins too, his is a hamstring. We'll see what that looks like because he was limited and obviously Evan didn't practice. So it looks like Evan's hamstring is more serious than Nico's. But those ones linger, and then the moment you do throw him in too early, if you re-injure it, then it just prolongs it. So you do have to be careful with those ones. The Foye news we talked about already a little bit, but that's not good. I feel like Foye is obviously a leader on your defense, but also one of the more consistent defensive players you've had. And so to not have somebody like that not only vocal leader, but also just show you with the way he plays type of leader, not having him on there is definitely concerning. And then when you look at the already beat up secondary, Buster Brown's been playing really well, honestly. And so he's been someone that I feel like for the most part has impressed a lot of people. I think they'll play, but how good are they? How, it's a chest and a shoulder. So how much does that kind of limit certain movements and stuff like that when you're facing a team that has a lot of weapons? We'll see how many of the weapons are actually playing.
Yeah, when we talked to Lance Zierlein earlier this week from Houston, he mentioned that Jalen Petrie is a guy that they've had to move him around because of injuries to their secondary, but he's probably not their fastest guy. And so that to me is an area where the Jaguars need to attack.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, when you watch teams around the NFL, they make sure that they have the best matchups, right? Yep. And that's obviously the responsibility of the offensive coordinator or the head coach if the head coach is an offensive-minded coach. Look, like, that's where Evan Ingram is missed sorely. And certainly last year we talked about Christian Kirk. The moment he got injured, that offense didn't play as well. Evan Ingram, I don't even know if we've talked enough about him not being available and how much that affects Trevor Lawrence, because he is missing now a guy that is a security blanket for the most part.
Yeah, and we talked about that play that Pete Prisco broke down with, using Brenton Strange rather than someone like Christian Kirk. If an Evan Ingram's there, you're using an Evan Ingram, and that play is probably successful just because of his knowledge of the offense, his comfortability with playing with Trevor Lawrence. And so little things like that do make a difference, and especially, like you said, if a quarterback is in his head and there are moments of where he feels like he can't set his feet and really go through progressions and stuff like that, having somebody that can be your go-to, that you can confidently know he's going to catch your passes and that you can get the ball to him quick and you'll be able to find him in areas of the field that maybe aren't getting you 20, 30, 40 yards, but are getting you first downs. And that's what Evan Ingram, I feel like, is best at in this offense. It's massive to not have somebody like that. And Lance Zierlein was also talking about just in general how kind of disappointing early on the secondary in Houston has been in general. And so that's something that, again, when you're talking about taking advantage of a Tank Dell potentially not being there and both starting running backs, also take advantage of a secondary who has not been able to figure it out. And guys like Jimmy Ward, who's also, he didn't practice, so we'll see if he's even playing, hasn't even been playing to the level that most people thought he would early on.
It seems like we'll be able to tell about this game in the first quarter. Yeah. Like, if the Jaguars have a 3-and-out on offense right away, and if the Texans go down and have an 11-play drive and score, it feels like we're just going to be like, all right, they're not winning this one. Like, if the offense doesn't score first and score a touchdown, especially if they get in the red zone, it feels like throw your hands up and you're just going to move along. But if the Jaguars had won at least one game to this point, we would be talking about it so differently, because the Texans struggled a little bit against the Colts, certainly allowed them to score 27. The Colts haven't looked that great with the ups and downs of Anthony Richardson, had a back and forth game with the Bears and then got trounced by the Vikings. We would feel so much more confident in the Jaguars going to Houston and winning.
Yeah, and I think that not only the indication of that first quarter with what the game will look like, Lauren, but I also think just in general with the vibe of where the teams are when it comes to the leadership and the personnel and all of that. Because like you just mentioned, the Houston Texans coming off a bad win against the Vikings, and the Jags coming off of 3 straight losses and really needing a win. Houston feels like they really need a win, even though they have 2. Which the team that comes out and is playing fast and is playing consistent, even with all of these injuries on both sides of the ball, that is almost an indicator right away, too, of like, okay, this team is serious this year.
Yeah, the one thing that really did help the Vikings is the crowd noise. It was really difficult for Stroud and the offense to be able to even talk to each other. And certainly that's not going to be a factor for the Texans offense on Sunday. Yeah, they're going to be at home. The crowd will be quiet when they're on offense. But yeah, it's a huge matchup because it's the first AFC South game for either of the teams. And the Texans are sitting in Houston, I'm sure, analyzing this game and going, all right, we know what the Jaguars are going to do. This offense is predictable, the defense is predictable. So we just have to have a good game plan and we'll be fine. And the Jaguars are sitting here in Jacksonville, and it feels like they're still like spinning their wheels. Right. Like a hamster on the wheel. Like, how do we get off this wheel and get to greener pastures? Certainly we'll find out. All right, when we come back, We will chat about the NFL as a whole. Taylor has found a great clip from Kevin O'Connell, one that actually might make Jaguars fans a little upset, but we'll let you hear that and a whole lot more. You're listening to Helmets and Heels on a Sunshine Turf Friday. Visit them at sunshineturf.info or go to 1010XL's Instagram page and you will see their latest project. It is 1010XL 92.5 FM.
This right here is as good as it gets. This is life getting lived without obligations or complications. This is filling your cup and savoring the moment. This is the gift of presence, served to you in a place where there's room for everyone and enough to go around. And the best part, it's always Sonny's here. Sonny's Barbecue, local pitmasters since '68.
Now at Hodges Mazda, get ready for an incredible offer and drive home the 2024 Mazda CX-5 with 0% APR for 36 months. Lauren Brooks here. The Mazda CX-5 combines sleek design, advanced technology, and a responsive drive, making it the ideal SUV for your everyday adventures. Discover the Hodges Mazda difference with our non-commissioned sales team who are always focused on your best interests. Plus, you will get 2 years of free maintenance. Visit Hodges Mazda today or shop online at hodgesmazda.com. See dealer for details. Terms and fees for qualified applicants expire September 30th, 2024.
Right now, they're on their way to ruin your day. Don't bother calling the police. They can't help. And if you're not prepared, you will suffer. Yes, it's that time of the year. Heat and humidity are attacking North Florida. But help is at hand. Call Mike Merritt's Heating and Air Conditioning. Mike Merritt has a license to chill and lets you maintain your comfort zone at a bargain price. How? Mike Merritt stands ready to help, routine or emergencies. And Mike Merritt knows emergencies can happen at any time. So with Mike, there's never any overtime charges. And Mike's team works without commissions. Merritt will never try to sell you parts you don't need. You can't trust just anyone with a truck. Call Mike Merritt, the company North Florida has trusted for 35 years. Call today. License number CAC 050384.
Football fans, huddle up. Make Best Bet St. Augustine your game day headquarters. We're serving up the ultimate viewing experience with all the big games on our massive screens, mouth-watering food specials till 2 a.m., drink deals to keep your spirits high, and we're open till 4 in the morning for post-game celebrations. Ante up for your team and score big at Best Bet St. Augustine this football season. For the play-by-play on our game day specials, visit bestbetjacks.com. That's bestbetjacks.com. Best Bet St. Augustine, where every fan leaves a champion.
Mia here, and when I was buying a new construction home last summer, there was no question. Dreamfinders Homes was the builder for me. A big reason why? Their unbeatable interest rates. Right now, you could take advantage of a 2.99% year one rate. Find your dream home, take advantage of unbeatable rates, and move in today. I'll say it again, 2.99% year one. Dreamfinders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I've known Glenn Cohen for a long time as a friend and a lawyer. Persistent and fair, Glenn and his firm have represented clients from North Florida and South Georgia for over 40 years in all kinds of personal injury cases. If I had such a case, call Glenn at Barnes, Cohen, and Sullivan.
It's a Sunshine Turf Friday.
The highest quality artificial turf at affordable prices.
Visit sunshineturf.info today.
If you're getting married or want to upgrade your bands, now is the time at Beard's Diamonds.
Because it's Beard's Diamonds' incredible buy one, get one on wedding band sale.
At the St. John's Town Center or at beardsdiamonds.com.
Don't suffer another day with cheap box store cornhole boards. Order your custom luxury boards from Mystic Cornhole Company right here in Jax. Ask about pro-level bags, lights, score stands, and other accessories. And score with Mystic Cornhole Company.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On September 27, 1923, New York Yankees legend Lou Gehrig hits his first of his 493 home runs in a game against the Boston Red Sox.
Hey, this is Bert Cannon with the First Coast YMCA. Youth sports at the Y can help nurture your future athlete's potential and experience the joy of being a kid. At the Y, we're providing a safe, clean, and fun environment with basketball, soccer, volleyball, gymnastics, elite skills training, and more. Best of all, participation in Legacy Youth Sports League is free with your family membership. Visit fcymca.org to learn all about youth sports. At the Y.
Electricians, innovators, and tech enthusiasts, listen up. Miller Electric is shaping the future, and we want you to be a part of it. From healthcare and data centers, corporate offices, aviation, and industrial facilities, Miller Electric is powering the most exciting projects in Jacksonville and beyond. We offer not just a job, but a thrilling career with great pay and incredible benefits. Visit us at millercareers.com to apply. Miller Electric, where your skills meet our vision, and equal opportunity employer.
It's time to take it back to the 90s, Jags fans. Be at the bank Sunday, October 6th, as we debut our Prowler throwback jerseys against the Colts and induct legendary head coach Tom Coughlin into the pride of the Jaguars at halftime. Kick off the set for 1 p.m. You're not going to want to miss this matchup. Lock in your seats now by going to jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, head team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's the latest update on the Jags, brought to you by Baptist Health and JOI.
The Jaguars' offense currently sits 30th in the NFL in points per game at 13.3 through the first 3 weeks. Jaguars left tackle Cam Robinson spoke to the media this week in the locker room and was asked about the performance of the Jaguars' offense.
It's very shocking. It's shocking, but I think the key is to not stay in it that too long. We just got to keep working and just got to keep chopping wood and we're just trying to find solutions. So like I mentioned earlier, starting faster I think will be something that's huge for us. Just kind of gets us in the rhythm and it kind of just settles everything down. We're just gonna keep working. We're just gonna trust the work.
Jags left tackle Cam Robinson. I'm Andrew Gibson with your Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Jaguars update.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Helmets and Heels is switched on by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor on 1010XL.
Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks with you on this Friday afternoon. Mia O'Brien is on assignment. She'll return on Monday. As always, it's a Sunshine Turf Friday. All right, Taylor Dahl, 3 teams are 3-0 that I think would surprise people. Mm-hmm. The Vikings, the Seahawks, and the Steelers. I think a lot of people saw the Chiefs being 3-0. Bills, maybe a little bit of a surprise, but people had faith in Josh Allen. But certainly those 3, Vikings, Seahawks, and Steelers, 3-0 to this point, a bit of a surprise. Well, Kevin O'Connell is, I think, a huge reason for the fact that the Vikings are undefeated at this point in time. And he joined the Rich Eisen show, and he was asked about quarterback development.
I just think as a whole, there's not enough emphasis put on the organization's role in the development of the position. Meaning, I do believe this, Rich. I believe that organizations fail young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations. And that's not, there's no specific example in my mind that I could give you of a team or a quarterback, but just overall 30,000-foot view, I think it's important to understand that every single one of these guys is on a journey, a very difficult journey, that they need the support, they need the teammates around them, they need the systems in place to ultimately try to maximize who they are and what their potential is, because you're still drafting players, Rich, off of potential. And then everything that happens from that moment to when that potential becomes a reality is really on the organization if you've got the right guy that you're bringing in. And then in regards to, I do believe there's some times where things just don't work out, and then getting a chance to kind of, wipe the slate clean and get a restart while still using your previous experiences to kind of shape how you're going to work, why you're going to work, why things are important to you, will only make guys better in the end. And I think we've seen some examples of that in our league as well over the last few years.
Two things to react immediately. One, he says, I don't have an example for that.
Oh, he does.
Your example is your quarterback, Sam Darnold.
I think he didn't want to like directly call out certain teams who failed their quarterback.
Right. But the Jets failed Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And again, the key quote to me in there, I believe organizations fail young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations. And the reason I said it might make Jaguars fans mad, Taylor, is I think those of us who believe Trevor Lawrence is incredibly talented believe that the organization hasn't done the right things in order to make him successful. Does he make mistakes? Absolutely. He has the most turnovers since he's come into the league of any quarterback.
Yeah.
But they still overall are not helping him the way they should be.
Yeah, and when you look around the league, when he said you can look around the league and see examples right now, and obviously Sam Darnold's one of those. You can also say Baker Mayfield's one of those. You can say Geno Smith's one of those. You can see Justin Fields is one of those. And Justin Fields just did a podcast yesterday talking about how much better Pittsburgh's coaching is than the Bears, and some Bears fans got mad. I'm like, he's not wrong. Like this kid who had all of the talent in the entire world, and everybody in the Chicago, like as the fan base kept saying, he has the potential to be a starter. He has the potential to win games. Just couldn't. And then you go and you start 3-0. Yes, has he been absolutely fantastic throwing for 300 yards and multiple touchdowns? No, but he's not turning the ball over like he was in Chicago. He's converting those third downs that he struggled with in Chicago. He's scoring. They're getting scores when they get in the red zone. They're not scoring massively. And the line is not great, but it's better than what he had in Chicago. But this goes back to Mike Tomlin and what he's been able to do with whatever quarterback is in Pittsburgh. We talked about, what's his name?
Duck Hodges.
I almost said Duck Quacken. Duck Hodges. And he was the last Steelers quarterback to win the first 3 games. And now I don't even know what he's doing, but
he follows Lainey Wilson around on her tour bus.
Yes, that's what he's doing. And so you go through all of these examples now of guys that go to new places, and the coaching staff just knows how to coach around their strengths, and the coaching staff knows how to call plays that don't take 3 minutes to develop when you don't have the line to let a 3-minute play develop. And it all, to me, there's the players, and Doug kept saying this in the presser the other day, the players play, the coaches coach. But I do think at the end of the day, one of the biggest jobs you have as a coach is developing these players. They're coming from college football. They're coming into this world of playing against the best of the best at every single position that they're facing. And a large part of your job is making sure that you take that potential, as he just said, and turn that potential into a product and on a consistent basis. And we just haven't seen that here in a lot of different positions, honestly.
Yeah, and to me, the development of Trevor Lawrence is twofold. One, is he studying, and is he in the playbook, and is he the master designer of this offense now that he is in year 4? That's part of it. I can't speak to any of that from what we're told. He works super hard, and yes, he's fully in on that level. And then the other part of it is the weapons around him. And the weapons are not just the receivers and running backs and tight ends. To me, the weapons are also the offensive line, the members of the offensive line. And at any point in time in his career, I don't think he would say that he's had enough time for him to process everything.
Yeah.
Other quarterbacks might need a shorter processing time. I would say Patrick Mahomes is the perfect example of that. Josh Allen is probably another good example. Lamar Jackson, another good example, especially when he takes off to run. Lamar might need a little bit more time processing to throw the football. But Trevor needs a little bit more time. And so that's where I feel like they failed him this offseason. It's not the weapons as far as the pass catchers and the running backs. It's the offensive line. They should have done more to replace maybe a Cam Robinson or to help develop Anton Harrison going into year 2 versus the regression. Mitch Morse has been, I think, pretty good. Is Ezra Cleveland or Brandon Sheriff playing well enough to give him enough time?
Yeah.
It sure doesn't seem like that through 3 weeks.
Well, and that's honestly, to me, what's scary when you see all these numbers through the first few weeks, and it has both Anton and Cam in the bottom half of the league when it comes to pressures allowed. Our biggest concern all offseason was talking about the interior. And yes, you add Mitch Morse, so I think a lot of us did kind of think that the interior would get better. It was more so relying on people staying healthy. Like, as long as he stays healthy, we feel like the interior should be better. But where is Brandon Sheriff in his career? We know he's kind of like on the back end of that career. So how consistent can he play? Can he play all year. Same with Ezra, because Ezra's struggled with a lot of different injuries too. So those are still things that we're kind of keeping an eye on. But the biggest problem to me is that your two tackles that I feel like when you pay Cam Robinson, you should have the confidence that he should be your starting left tackle. And the way that Anton played last year, you thought that this was just going to get better. And so the fact that your two tackles have regressed so much, and that now looks like your biggest weakness, which is awful because that means the edges coming around on each side is getting to Trevor in no time, and they don't even have to create pressure in the middle anymore. That's what scares me the most, honestly, about the line right now.
Right, because now the clock in Trevor's head is sped up. And again, to go back to Kevin O'Connell's quote, I believe organizations fail young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations. At this juncture, some people think Trevor Lawrence is not it. If you go on social media, you 100% will see lots of those comments. I know people like you and me get angry texts from people and tweets from people who believe that
We've
Trevor...
gotten some today.
I'm sure we have, who believe that Trevor is not the answer and the Jaguars have a franchise quarterback who's not a franchise quarterback. I don't agree with that in the sense that I've seen him play so well in moments that I think it's there.
Yeah.
Like they just haven't been able to tap that full potential because of all of the other stuff. And not to mention the actual play designs too.
Yeah.
The playbook is a huge part of this. And I hope this week that they have gone through and said some of these plays that we've pointed out, when people do film review, we got to take some of these out or we got to change this. There should always be a check down available, especially if there's a blitz coming.
Yeah. And when we were talking about one thing, this text just made me laugh because 910 said, I would trade Doug and our next 2 first-round picks for Kevin O'Connell. But I think that...
I don't think you're getting him.
Sorry. I would love him. But when we were talking to Eric about Eric Wood about the Bills, and I asked about last year when they made that coaching change and you fired Dorsey and how the offense, it was already a decent offense, but it did feel like it had something missing. And part of that was probably the play calling, but there was a lot of turnovers. It just looked kind of clunky. It wasn't consistent. You fire Dorsey, you move on to Joe Brady, and you have this offense that just looks like it goes to this whole other level. And when we were asking Eric Wood about that, he said they simplified the offense for Josh Allen. It's okay to have to simplify your offense for your quarterback. This is a quarterback that's been in the league longer than Trevor Lawrence, a quarterback that has honestly proven to be better than Trevor Lawrence, and they still felt like they needed to do that to make sure that things could run better. A big part of that is getting the run game going, obviously, like what they've been able to do with James Cook. And the wild thing is I think he only even had 44 yards rushing or something like that last week, but they can use him in multiple ways, and when they know they need to get that 3rd and 6, they know James Cook can do that. So to have that reliability is a big factor, but I also think just having a play caller who knows how to plan everything around the strengths of your quarterback is so important, even if that means taking away some of the things that you think are more fun and explosive. Everything doesn't have to be these fantastic 25-yard, 60-yard bombs to BTJ for a touchdown. We can simplify it and make it into something that feels more consistent, and especially, like I said, right now at this time, taking time off of the clock because you don't have this offense that can score 40 points. So if you want to win a game scoring 20, then you need to use the clock into your advantage.
And Joe Brady, I think, is the perfect example of you can make a change mid-season and have a team that goes to the playoffs. This season is still early enough that they could, and I'm not calling for this, but they could fire Press Taylor and hire someone else or elevate Mike McCoy, for example. Again, I'm not calling for that yet. The Jaguars still could win the next 4 games. But there is the option of doing that mid-season and having successful results on the other side. It doesn't have to be, we had to make changes in the offseason, and now we're just going to ride with what we have, right? You can fire someone, hire someone else, and all of a sudden things can start to click. It's just frustrating when it happens up there and nothing happens here.
Yeah, and another text from the text line, 891, said, you ladies and everyone else in Duval need to realize he's just not generational. He is a good quarterback, and the quicker you get on board at that fact, he's just good, the less stress you will have as fans. I'll tell you, I accepted the fact that Trevor Lawrence isn't generational probably a season and a half ago, to be honest. I think that the word is used, and I've said it before, the generational word, the elite word is used too often, and we've got to come to our senses when it comes to what those players are. Patrick Mahomes is a generational player. That's somebody that we'll talk about forever. He's changing the way that the offense is run. He's changing the way completely that defenses have to scheme. There's no way to stop Patrick Mahomes. You just have to slow down Patrick Mahomes. And Trevor Lawrence isn't that guy. But I do agree what you were just saying is that he's good and he has the potential to be a really good quarterback, but it takes more than just one guy to do that. You have to have the right play calling. You have to have the right coaches. You have to have an offensive line. You have to have a run game. Even the best, unless, like I said, you're Patrick Mahomes, you can do whatever. But there's very few quarterbacks that can make winning consistent with having no time to throw and a million drops and a play caller who, like I said, is just not play calling with the scheming up things that are able to be developed in time for you to even make things happen.
Yeah, I have a friend who said, well, does everything have to be perfect around Trevor for him to succeed? It doesn't have to be perfect.
I don't think so, because there was definitely not perfect in 2022.
No, but at times we have seen him fit the ball in such tight windows that there are not 32 guys on the face of this planet that can make throws like that.
And I've been one of the first ones to be critical of Trevor. Like, I've been very vocal about that touchdown to the turnover ratio and how that has to change. If that does not change, then we will never see a really good Trevor Lawrence. That's just the bottom line. He has to change that narrative of, okay, maybe Josh Allen also turns the ball a lot, or maybe Jalen Hurts turns the ball over a lot. But if they're scoring double, triple the amount of touchdowns, then you're never going to get the same conversation around you as some of the guys that score. You have to be able to score touchdowns. I don't care if you have 4,000 yards, because if you have 4,000 yards and 20 touchdowns, that means nothing. So I've been critical in the sense there's a lot of things that I think Trevor still has to work on. And what does concern me is I feel like there has been a little bit of regression, and that's why I keep pointing to the guys above him. And that's why we played this clip, honestly, is because sometimes these guys are given up on too early. And that's why, number one, let's not throw Trevor out the window because things aren't going perfectly offensively how you want, because there are a lot of other issues surrounding the offense. But number two, Trevor does have to get better, and it takes the right people to develop that part, all of his traits, into something that turns into a full product.
And the reason I still defend him is because I think if you were to take every snap that the offense has had this season, the amount of issues that he's had throwing the ball versus the amount of issues that everyone else has had between the drops and the breakdowns and protection, I think
illegal formations and false starts,
like getting the plays and all that stuff. Like, I think that's a very small percentage of him missing throws versus the other stuff.
Everything
so I understand.
Combined.
Like, I have a friend who just texted me on his birthday's on Sunday, as a matter of fact, and he just texted me like, I used to defend Trevor, now I don't, until he proves me wrong. I get it. My cousin texted me last night. She's always very angry, very, very angry. God love her, but very, very upset all the time. And she was like, Trevor would win a Super Bowl with the 49ers. He's never going to win one here because of the organization. So you can look at it so many different ways, and that's why I always joke we've talked more about Trevor Lawrence than anyone else since the show started on April 1st, because
I mean, rightfully so.
Right, because he's the hot button topic in these parts. And Trevor will be here. I said this the other day. Trevor will be here even if Doug Peterson's not here and Press Taylor's not here. Like, Trevor Lawrence will be the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the way I see it, until 2030 when the extension's done. And maybe, hopefully, beyond that.
Yeah.
Like, does he have things that he absolutely needs to fix? Of course he does. Yeah. But I'll still take him over Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers for now, because he has more experience in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think that's always the biggest question mark. And I know there's people, I've seen it on Twitter and through text, like you said. I have friends on each side of the spectrum when it's like, he's terrible, he's not even a top 50 quarterback, get rid of him, play Mac Jones, at least it would give you something. And then you have the other people that are like, no, like the extreme, where it's like, no, he does everything right and everything else is wrong around him. It's somewhere in the middle. And I think that and like you said, there's things that he needs to work on. But if you are already in the mindset of giving up and throwing away Trevor Lawrence and going to draft a Quinn Ewers or a Carson Beck, that's just honestly crazy to me, because that's one of the biggest risk you can take is, hey, you couldn't even develop one of the best quarterbacks that has come into the NFL out of college football. You think you can develop somebody else? If that's your issue, then you've got to find everything else. You have to have a franchise that knows how to do this efficiently, and they just haven't proven they can.
If Trevor hadn't gotten the contract extension, how much would the conversation be, who are the Jaguars drafting at quarterback?
I was thinking about that the other day, honestly, and I number one, I was like, this is why everyone was saying for Trevor's sake, he needs to get the contract this offseason, because I think people were hesitant of it was going to be a really bumpy ride or he was going to prove it 100%. And obviously right now we're in that bumpy ride part of it. A long season ahead, maybe those things will change when it comes to the conversation surrounding Trevor Lawrence. But I do think that talks would shift, because I think at this point you wouldn't be saying we just paid this guy and you have him for the next 7 years. The conversation would be like, okay, well, you have to make the decision this year if you're going to sign this guy. So I think conversations would be very different right now.
They absolutely would be, and the people who aren't college football fans would be locking into those Texas and Georgia games, and Colorado even too. Some people
would be watching Carson Beck in this Bama-Georgia game this weekend very
exactly.
closely.
And Jalen Milroe too.
Yes.
I saw Dane Brugler, who does such a great job covering the draft for The Athletic, and he tweeted out that Saturday night's game between Georgia and Alabama will determine who's QB1 for the 2025 draft. I don't know if I would put all the chips on the table as far as just this one game, but I get it at the same time. It is a matchup of two high-profile quarterbacks who are trying to win the Heisman Trophy and, of course, the national championship.
Yeah, and there may be some Miami fans that would be like, hey, let's go get Cam Ward.
100%. You got that right. All right. We will chat with Roger Hoover on the other side about that Georgia-Alabama game. He's the play-by-play broadcaster and host for the Alabama Crimson Tide. We will chat with him, of course, formerly the play-by-play voice of the Jacksonville Suns and Jumbo Shrimp. That's next on a Sunshine Turf Friday on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Now you can watch 1010XL shows all day on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Brought to you by MyBookie. Experience Vegas from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere. Sign up today. Use promo code 1010XL.
Let's take it down the field and win it.
It's a different kind of Sunday drive.
10th play of the drive here.
Randy Marion Cadillac of Jacksonville brings you the drive of the game.
Here's your ball game
on 1010XL.
Hey, Jacksonville, Taylor Dahl here of Helmets and Heels. Are you looking for a remix on the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich? The Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is a flavorful spin on a familiar favorite, created with a Chick-fil-A filet, a drizzle of honey, pickled jalapenos, and a spread of savory pimento cheese. The Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich combines your favorite flavors with a twist. And this year, it's back with a bite with a spicy filet option. Available for a limited time only, so stop by and enjoy one today at your local Chick-fil-A restaurant.
Pickett here with my concierge doctor, Richard Townsend. Doc T, how does a concierge direct primary care operate?
We are a membership-based primary care made directly between a patient and physician. We'll have a limited amount of patients that allows us to give unlimited access and personal service to you. This individualized approach has been shown to lower hospitalizations as well as maintain healthier lives. We also give 24/7 access via phone to me outside of our scheduled office hours.
To learn more, go to mypvconcierge.com.
So many questions this time of the year, and I'm going to guess one of those questions is, why Arlington? I'm so glad you asked, because our friends over at Arlington Toyota have so many reasons why your next new ride is at Arlington Toyota. But first, let me ask you a question. Don't you just love having to drive from lot to lot to lot to try and find good selection? Nobody likes that. And thanks to Arlington, you don't have to. Arlington's lot is packed with new Toyotas in stock in one location, ready to go home with you today. If anything, you might have a hard time deciding with so many to choose from. That's okay, because Arlington has you covered there too with their 60-day exchange program. That's 60 days to love your new purchase or exchange it for one that you do. Worried about financing? There's the Arlington Credit Helper. You even get a complimentary car wash with every service. So instead of asking why Arlington, I'm going to ask, why aren't you here yet? Shop in person, 10939 Atlantic Boulevard, or online at arlingtontoyota.com.
Our slogan, Know Before You Blow, applies to more than just DUI cases. Hi, I'm attorney Lee Lockett of Lockett Law. Battery charges can result in jail time and criminal convictions too, so know before you blow a gasket and hit a loved one or a stranger. Drug crimes like possession of marijuana and cocaine will land you in cuffs too, so know before you blow. In a boating under the influence case, you also have the option to blow or not to blow. So know your options. Know before you blow. Go to knowbeforeyouBlow.com now. Offices Jacksonville.
Navy Mutual was created by service members for service members, so we know what it means to serve. Our policies have no active duty service restrictions, so you can rest assured that you're covered no matter your duty station, home or abroad. To go even further, we promise that premiums will not be higher for those who serve in dangerous environments, including aviation, diving, or on deployments. Let us help you protect those you love the most. Learn more at NavyMutual.org.
Hello, this is Father Nicholas Lowe, and I want to talk to you about putting your worries in the right bucket. So often we put our worries in our own bucket, but many times they need to be in God's bucket. The Bible says, present your problems always to God. In other words, leave them in God's bucket. Understand that no matter what is out of your control, it's never out of the control of Almighty God.
To hear more inspirational messages by Reverend Dr. Nicholas Lowe, please visit our website at stjohnthedivine.com.
Sunshine Turf Friday on Helmets and Heels.
This election, if you want someone who will take care of the messes, someone who isn't afraid to get dirty and work in the trenches, someone who will pump out the problems and prevent future ones, vote for the Duck.
Need your septic tank serviced? Call Duck Duck Rooter, your 5-star Google-rated septic company. Visit duckduckrooter.com.
I approve this message.
When you're stuck, call the Duck. DuckDuckRooter.com.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Hey folks, Rick Ballou here for John's Auto. They've been a staple in Jacksonville going all the way back to 1985. At John's Auto, they service all makes, all models, cars, trucks, diesel, you name it, they do it. Whether it's routine maintenance or a complete engine overhaul. Call John's Auto on Arlington Road. That's 904-743-3857 or go to johnsautomotivejacks.com.
This is Hayes Carlion for Skylife Elite. Have you ever thought about aircraft ownership as another potential revenue stream and as a tool for tax savings? Put your tax money to work for you while enjoying the benefits of private personal travel. Skylife Elite has over a decade of experience in business aviation and can guide you through the process with their expert staff. Call my friends over at Skylife Elite at 490-9332 or find them at flyskylife.com to get the rundown on everything owning an airplane can do for you.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist Local Sports Update, brought to you by USA Park. Ahead of their road game this week to Texas, where the FSU Seminoles take on SMU this Saturday at 8 o'clock, head coach Mike Norvell spoke with the media on the communication within the team, feeling confident in this road game.
We're trying to work different things. We try to work that regardless of a game week, a road game week. There's times that we'll utilize a variety of cadences. We'll utilize different elements. We try to create that type of atmosphere, so it's not just packing it all into 1 week and say, hey, we got it. But we'll see. I feel good about our preparation.
In another crucial ACC matchup, the Miami Hurricanes host Virginia Tech tomorrow at 7:30, looking to continue their undefeated streak. It's 87 degrees at 1 o'clock. Time in temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555, Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Garber Auto Mall phone line.
Hello. We
can wiggle it.
Roger Hoover joins us to talk all things Georgia, Alabama, play-by-play broadcaster and host for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Of course, Roger used to live here and be the play-by-play voice of the Sun/Jumbo Shrimp. Roger, first and foremost, how's the weather there?
The weather in Alabama is all right. Luckily, the hurricane has kind of missed us, but unfortunately, it's hitting, of course, all of you I know in Florida, but then people in Georgia as well, making their way from Georgia to Alabama for the game. Unfortunately, a lot of travel plans have been affected that way, but so far, so good here in Alabama. Should have really good weather coming up for the ball game tomorrow, but thank you guys for having me on. It's always a blast to be back with my friends, Helmets and Heels, back in Duval.
Thanks so much for joining us. Yeah, I saw that Liberty App State was canceled since that game would have been in Boone, and so they're going to have to find some new opponents. So like you said, the weather is certainly affecting a lot, but glad to hear everything is good there. Let's get it to the football game. Your thoughts on Kalen DeBoer taking on Kirby Smart?
It's definitely different because we're used to Kirby Smart against Nick Saban, and everything Kirby built at Georgia was really, again, copy and pasted from Alabama. Even some Alabama logos were copied still onto Kirby's early plans for Georgia. And he recruited the same type of players. They played the same style on offense and defense. Now it's a little bit different with Kalen DeBoer. He has certainly have his own offensive identity. The defense is much different than what it was under Coach Saban. So all of those new wrinkles are really there for this matchup. That's why it's a matchup of likes we really haven't seen before. So it's going to be really fascinating to see what it looks like, Kalen DeBoer versus Kirby Smart in game number one. After, again, usually it's a very evenly placed matchup between these two teams going into an Alabama-Georgia matchup, just based on how similar they are. Now there are some differences, and we just got to see how it plays out.
Yeah, Roger, I think when we are looking at this Alabama team, one of the things that sticks out to me the most so far is just the development of Jalen Milroe. And last year, the benching happened, and you feel like he came back a different player almost. But this year, it feels like it's even at a different level. And what Kalen DeBoer has been able to do with Milroe and building everything around his strengths and developing those to an even further extent, it kind of seems like people are pointing to that Michael Penix development too. But what have you seen with Kalen DeBoer and what he's been able to do with Milroe this season so far?
I think he's infused a lot of confidence in Jalen Milroe. I don't think Jalen had a lot of it early last year with everything that went on, like you mentioned. He has a tough game against Texas, doesn't even play against South Florida. And then as the year went on, he got certainly a lot better, and Alabama kind of catered to his skill set much more in the second half of the season, and that ultimately led to the SEC championship. This year, the buy-in has really been there from the start, and Jalen studied the offense at Washington, saw everything that Michael Penix did, not only for Coach DeBoer at Washington, but Indiana as well, and has really taken it and run with it. And speaking of running, I mean, Jalen Milroe is really the third best runner on this team behind the two running backs that are so good, Justice Haynes and Jam Miller. But, you know, Jalen already has 6 rushing touchdowns. He's had 2 in each of Alabama's first 3 games so far. He's just so hard to defend in the red zone, and that's why he's been so effective for this team. And the other thing is he's just not making mistakes with football. He hasn't thrown an interception yet, has looked good on the deep ball, intermediate, short passing game as well. He's just played really flawless football at this point, and Alabama fans are certainly hoping he can continue that tomorrow.
Roger, as far as Georgia's concerned, Trevor Etienne, certainly one of the most explosive backs in the country. How does Alabama plan to defend him?
They're going to get better against the run. The rushing defense has not been great so far for the Crimson Tide. They've been able to be nice in the red zone and getting some stops and making sure they're holding teams' field goals. But teams have had success running the football against Crimson Tide. I certainly saw that 2 weeks ago against Wisconsin and before that against South Florida. So that's one of the key questions for this team. Been really good shutting down the pass, but can they stop the run, especially somebody like Etienne, who not only is going to run the football well, Georgia does a great job at getting him involved in screen passes, different things like that. So that's certainly an area of concern. The one good thing is Alabama has been able to rush the passer pretty well, get to the backfield, get some sacks, so they have a really strong defensive line. And we know that that's a bit of a concern for Georgia, their offensive line, without Tate Ratledge available for this ball game. So can Alabama take advantage of that, slow down Etienne, and really disrupt the timing of Carson Beck? That's going to be key for this game.
Let's talk about one of the coolest stories, I think, on Alabama, and that's wide receiver Ryan Williams. It's just been so fun to watch this kid, how quickly he's kind of picking up on this Alabama offense, but just in general, his story and how he enrolled early to join the Crimson Tide, now being one of the youngest players, or probably the youngest player, to be able to start for a team, and by the time he even finishes the season, be that young. So tell us about his story a little bit and the kind of success he's had this early on.
For him, he has had all the hype and buildup around his recruitment, very similar to Julio Jones when Julio was recruited and became the first key signee that Nick Saban had. A very similar story for Ryan Williams, but especially when you consider that he is reclassified early and he should be a high school senior right now. He's only 17 years old, and he wowed everybody with those 2 touchdowns to begin the season against Western Kentucky. But I was more impressed against South Florida and Wisconsin. He started to get used a little more in the short passing game, or intermediate passing, and he became a go-to wide receiver when Alabama needed him to be against South Florida when that was still a one-point game in the fourth quarter. Looked really good there, and he's just got a fun personality. He has a podcast, which I'm ashamed to say, but I'm not surprised to say, is doing way better than my Alabama podcast. He's getting a ton of views and really using name, image, and likeness very well. He's got the Hollywood branding all around him. He's making a lot of money. He's doing very, very well as only a 17-year-old kid here at Alabama. So he's been a blast to watch so far, and I know the competition is going to be stepped up a lot when he faces Georgia coming up tomorrow and then throughout the rest of this tough SEC schedule. But, man, you can't get off to a better start than what he's had through 3 games.
Well, this is a perfect time to ask you, Roger, to plug your podcast then.
Yeah, I do a lot of coverage for the Crimson Tide Sports Network on mostly our social media platforms, and then that extends to our radio network as well. So if you're an Alabama fan, just subscribe to the Crimson Tide Sports Network, especially on YouTube. So many content clips going there, full interviews, long podcast-style interviews with a lot of Alabama football players, media members, coaching staff as well. So we try to do a great job covering SEC football as well. We have several other shows dedicated to that on our social media platforms, and then throughout our radio coverage throughout the week. But yeah, we have done really well, just maybe not as well as Ryan Williams has starting his own content creation, The Storm. And, you know, it took Peyton Manning a million years to do it. He's already doing it year one.
There you go. At Roger_Hoover on X. I want to talk about the Alabama fan base. People always want to say that the Florida fan base is toxic. And while I disagree with that, that's not the point. If Kalen DeBoer and Alabama loses this game at home, are the fans already calling for his head?
No, not necessarily, especially because this game is the SEC opener. It's still so early in the season, and, you know, Alabama even proved in the 14 playoff era they could withstand an early loss like we saw a year ago against Texas and back it up and find a way to get into the playoff. I think especially now that we're in a 12-team playoff era where there is a little bit more margin for error to try and make that field, I think the fans are going to be patient. But, you know, regardless of who loses this football game, the road ahead is going to be really tough. Georgia still has, of course, Texas and Ole Miss, Tennessee on its schedule. For Alabama, there are some really tough road trips coming up to Tennessee, LSU, Oklahoma later in the year, and then the Iron Bowl is always a big game to close it out. So I think fans would be maybe, I don't even want to say the honeymoon would be over because, again, fans are pretty positive with the way that Kalen DeBoer has handled what could be the toughest transition in sports, going from Nick Saban to the next coach. He's handled it really well at this point, and I think the fans definitely at this point have some patience, again, based on the fact that there is still an opportunity for this season to be a championship season, even if it turns out to be a loss tomorrow.
Do you think this game this weekend with a win would kind of fully take over when it comes to the fans and the locker room, Kalen DeBoer winning both of those?
I think so. And again, I think a lot of that's already in place with what he's been able to do so far throughout the offseason, just how positive he's been, the way he has acknowledged the challenge of replacing Coach Saban, and the way that Coach Saban has embraced him and his coaching staff has gone a really long way. So you get a win against Georgia, and that makes Kirby Smart 1-6 against the Crimson Tide. And no longer people are saying, well, Kirby just outside of that one national championship game can't beat Nick Saban. Now people are starting to say, okay, he just has a tough time against Alabama. I think it'd be a huge statement if Alabama is able to get this win and continue down a path that could lead to an SEC championship or a playoff berth. But that's what makes a game like tomorrow a lot of fun. There is a lot on the line, and certainly Alabama seems ready for the challenge. Now we just have to see what happens.
Roger, I joked earlier this week that we expect this game to be like 21-all going into halftime and high-powered offense and all that for Alabama, certainly, and Georgia being able to run the ball. And it's going to be like 3-3.
We could see that. I mean, that doesn't seem to be the MO very much of this Alabama offense. I think a couple weeks ago against Wisconsin, Alabama was up 14-3, and they got the ball back with about 36 seconds left to go, and on their own 30-yard line. And everyone kind of figured, okay, you take a knee, going to halftime, up on the road, 14-3. Well, it took 2 plays. Alabama went downfield with Ryan Williams for a huge gain, and then a touchdown pass from Jalen Milroe to Jeremy Bernard, and all of a sudden you're up 21-3. And even though it was the second quarter, that felt like a knockout blow against the Wisconsin Badgers. This can be a really quick strike offense for Alabama. So I'm expecting some scoring, especially against a Georgia secondary that has some talent but is certainly young and certainly hasn't seen a test like they'll see from Jalen Milroe and the Crimson Tide. So I think Alabama is well suited to get into a high-scoring game, but this is also a Crimson Tide team that can run the football effectively and slow it down if need to, and I think you could see some of that in the fourth quarter if Alabama has a 1 or 2 score lead. Get these names seared into your brain right now. Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, also Jalen Milroe running the football, because I think Alabama could be very effective playing that style if they need to.
Roger, that was kind of some of the conversation I was having yesterday with Georgia has had slow starts. It's taken what feels like until the third quarter for their offense to really get going, and this isn't a game I think they're going to be able to do that. Is that kind of, or is Alabama looking at it in that sense of, okay, it takes Georgia a little bit to get going? Carson Beck really hasn't fully unleashed this season yet, or are they more so, this looks like a game where he could?
I think cautious optimism, definitely with Carson Beck, because we've seen before in his career what he can do, and even had really good moments against Alabama in that SEC championship game last year. Got off to a quick start, kind of slower second quarter, third quarter, and then brought Georgia back at the end to make it a 3-point ball game. But Alabama knows how good he can be, and especially the combination you talked about earlier, he and Trevor Etienne connecting on some of those swing passes and picking up a lot of yardage. They know it's certainly a good challenge. So for the Crimson Tide, they've got to make sure they get off to a quick start too, because that South Florida game, was 14-13 with 10 minutes left to go, and everyone was pretty nervous around Saban Field that night. So I think it's a challenge for both teams to try and start playing their best football from the opening whistle to try and gain the advantage.
So, Roger, something tells me you're leaning the Tide in this one.
I feel good. I feel good about Alabama. And again, I've got as much bias as you can have working for the school, the flagship radio network, and being part of the team the last few years. But I like the explosive playmaking ability of this Crimson Tide offense, coupled with the fact that Alabama can run the football, be that smash mouth team that kind of reminds you of some Nick Saban teams of old if they're able to really work the clock late with the running game. And then I think the defense is doing a nice job. It's still got to work against the run. I think that's still a big concern. That's slowing down Trevor Etienne. But against the pass, they've done all right. Certainly need some more takeaways and need some more interceptions, only 2 on the year to this point. But I think it all sets up really well for Alabama if the Crimson Tide can get off to a good start. And I think the X factor is Jalen Milroe. He is, even going back to the SEC championship game against Georgia, he's a different player. He's playing with so much more confidence this season, and I think if you see a big performance and a good win for the Tide coming up tomorrow, everyone's going to be talking about his Heisman chances for this year.
All right, Roger. Well, we appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow night, and certainly have fun.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. I look forward to catching up with you guys again down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Roger. Roger_Hoover on X. Look, like he said, he's close to it. So he has seen those explosive plays up close and personal, and he's gotten to know Kalen DeBoer as well. And so I think Alabama wins the game too, but that's college football for you. Just when you think you know something, it's the
and
NFL
Georgia
too.
football.
And that's Georgia football is slow, methodical, right out the gates. And so Georgia probably...
Just when you think you have them, Kirby does something where you're like, never mind.
Right, something on special teams. To me, Georgia has to come into this game with a little bit different of a game plan than they had against Kentucky. With Kentucky, they knew they just had to outlast the Wildcats, and that they did. Although Kentucky was better along the offensive and defensive lines than Georgia was. Was that a one-off, or is that what we see Saturday night? Because if Alabama's better in the trenches, it could be a long night for the Dogs.
Yeah, and that's something that I think we have to keep an eye on. And what I mentioned yesterday, too, with the penalties, a lot of the penalties have come in the trenches for Georgia, too, which that is the last thing that you want in a game where you feel like he said, Alabama's going to be scoring fast. You need to be scoring fast. It feels like it's going to be that type of matchup.
And it's going to be a chaotic, hostile environment for Georgia. But look, if Georgia wins, I'll then next week go, why on earth did I pick against Georgia? Because they have more probably talent than Alabama does. Alabama lost some of its talent after Nick Saban retired and Kalen DeBoer was hired. All right, we've got Taylor's Tangent and lunch on the ladies when we return. You are listening to Helmets and Heels. It's a Sunshine Turf Friday. You can find them online at sunshineturf.info or call Caleb and his team 904-383-0243. I promise you will love working with them to design the backyard of your dreams. It's 1010XL 92.5 FM.
This hour of Helmets and Heels is brought to you by First Coast Honda dealers. Uncover what you might have missed.
He's quick. He's got great hands. He finds the gaps.
Dandy Foods post-game Monday.
And most importantly, he moves the chains.
Expert analysis of Sunday's game all day. Post-game Monday. Brought to you by Dandy Foods on 1010XL.
Hacker here, and the celebration continues on my countdown to 100 pounds. I'm now at 93.5 pounds with only 6.5 pounds to go. That will be a 100-pound swing in just over 6 months. Only a couple of more weeks to go, and I feel awesome. Life-changing and life-saving is what I like to say. Maybe you don't have 100 pounds to lose. Maybe it's 25 like Mike Dempsey, or 40 like Matt Hayes. Whatever your number is, bring it to Awaken 180 and ask them how fast you'll reach it. But Hacker, I've tried other programs and diets before. Why will Awaken 180 work? That's simple. Because if I can do it, anyone can do it. Remember, when I hit that 100-pound mark, we're going to celebrate. I'll keep you updated every week as I get closer. And you can even join in on the celebration. Pick up the phone and make your own 180. Call 844-346-1800 or online at awaken180weightloss.com.
Hey Jacksonville, Mia here. Hurricane season has peaked, and the name to remember is Pro Jax Roofing. Your neighbors have relied on Mike and his guys for 25 years to repair or replace their roofs. When you call Pro Jax Roofing, you only talk to Mike. No expensive salespeople, minimal overhead. With Hurricane Helene having barreled through, you're going to want to make sure you have Mike's information. Call him today for a free estimate or go online at projaxroofingfl.com. That's projaxroofingfl.com.
Who has the best lineup this season? Honda. Cars, trucks, SUVs, vans, hybrids, and electric. This is one of the greatest lineups Honda has ever had. And now is the best time to purchase or lease one. Visit your local Honda dealer now. Remember, only a Honda is a Honda.
Mia here. We are getting so much love through the text line with people cashing in at MyBookie. I've been betting too, and it makes the game so much more fun. This weekend, the Vikings visit the Packers in a divisional game. Both defenses have been awesome this year. Give me the under 45.5 at MyBookie. Your home team, meanwhile, an underdog on the road in H-Town. If you're into winning money, take that bet. Texans -6.5, although the line has shifted a bit. And on Sunday Night Football, I see nothing but fireworks between the Bills and the Ravens. Give me the over 46.5. For a limited time, MyBookie is bringing back the double deposit bonus. Use promo code 1010XL to claim a bonus that doubles your money on your very first deposit. Double that money with promo code 1010XL before you even place a bet. Sign up using that promo code in order to make some big money this football season. Bet on anything, anytime, anywhere, and make your season a winning season with MyBookie.
Pre-Game Friday is brought to you by MyBookie
and Dream Finders Homes
on 1010XL.
Need protection? Call Craig and Christine Kaprosky at Goosehead Insurance. The Kaproskys are a husband-wife team committed to finding you the right coverage at the right price in just a few short minutes. For home, auto, flood, or specialty insurance, Craig and Christine Kaprosky are the answer. Craig.Kaprosky at Goosehead.com.
Don't make a bad call when it comes to servicing your home. Cooling off with a baby pool in the house to fix your air conditioning problem is a bad call. Trying to catch a wave in a flooded bathroom is a bad call. Using a burning electrical panel to make s'mores is a bad call. The next time something goes wrong, make a good call to Donovan.
Whether you need air, electric, or plumbing service, Donovan is always a good call. It's why we've been trusted by our customers for almost 40 years and why you can trust us to deliver fast, reliable service to your home. Donovan, always a good call.
Visit DonovanAC.com today.
It's a Sunshine Turf Friday on Helmets and Heels.
Your car is like part of your family. It takes you to work, drops the kids off at school, goes with you on vacation. You feel safe in your car, but all that can change in an instant due to someone else's carelessness. Now you need money for medical bills, car repairs, lost wages. You need help, and you need it now. If you've been injured in a car accident, call us at 396-5555. Farah and Farah, protecting you and your family since 1979. Jacksonville.
Share your voice anytime on the 1010XL text line.
Are you serious? Installed by Lifetime Flooring.
I gotta say, you're totally blowing my mind right now.
If you can't call or email, text us. 641-1010.
When all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. I'm Dr. George Bari, and like me, I know you have been bombarded with PRP and stem cell treatments from companies that promise the world and charge prices to match. Or the surgeon that convinced you the only way to treat your injuries through surgery. At Bari Orthopedics, we offer the best PRP treatment on the market with prices that won't cost you an arm and a leg. We also have the expertise to treat your injury surgically if that is what it entails. We can discuss all surgical and non-surgical options with you and make sure you get the best treatment available. Come see me, Dr. George Bari at Bari Orthopedics.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. You know, I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation, light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to carlsondentalgroup.com. That's carlsondentalgroup.com for all of your dental needs.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Wow! I feel good.
It's a feel-good Friday.
We're gonna have a good time together.
And that would be good. So good!
Text or tweet something that makes you feel good today.
I hear good things. Really good things. Cheers to the freaking weekend. Drinks it up. Yeah. Oh, let the dimmer sun sink in.
Made it to Friday. That's what makes us always feel good. Made it to Friday, and Hurricane Helene hopefully did not cause too much damage. I've seen quite a few people online saying that they had to deal with some tree stuff. We did too. Nothing major, though. Hopefully, like I said, everybody out there is faring well.
Do you have a little bit of breaking news?
Oh, go for it.
So Ian Rappaport just posted some status updates for guys around the league, and the Texans running back Joe Mixon is back at practice today.
Interesting. So he has the ankle injury. He did not practice the last 2 days, but he is back at practice today. So like I said earlier, we will have a full injury report from the Jaguars and the Texans this afternoon. And at that point in time, we'll find out. My guess, since he is at practice today, although we don't know if he's practicing, he's at practice.
Back at practice.
But my guess is he'll probably be listed as questionable with the ankle injury and then try to give it a go. We talked about it earlier. The list is long for both the Jaguars and the Texans. But the list was long. Week 1 against the Dolphins, week
honestly,
2 against the Browns,
weeks.
week 3 against the Bills. The Jaguars were fairly healthy throughout those games and still weren't able to come up with wins. But certainly that's good news if you're a Houston Texans fan, that at least Mixon is going to maybe try and give it a go. All right, Taylor Dahl, take it away with your tangent.
Now, Taylor's Tangent, served up by Chick-fil-A on 1010XL.
So CBS Sports writes an article that is talking about some of the questions that need to be answered early in the season. One of the ones we talked about actually earlier are the 3-0 teams, and they kind of go through which ones they think are the most 3-0 team, like the one that's the most believable 3-0 team. But the other one they go to is the 1 and 2 teams to watch, which there's a ton of 1 and 2 teams right now. But San Francisco's in that, Baltimore Ravens are in that, Dallas Cowboys are in that, Los Angeles Rams are in that. And so these are some teams that have been
Cowboys now are 2 and 2.
Yeah, because they won. So this was written right before that. So they did win last night. They're 2 and 2. But also it feels like the Dallas Cowboys are a little broken right now. I texted my friend last night and I'm like, are the Cowboys broken? Because this just doesn't look like, especially the way last season went.
Yeah, and speaking of that, more breaking news. Micah Parsons did suffer a high ankle sprain in the win over the Giants last night, that 20-15 victory. And so
that hurts.
His status is to be determined. Yeah, high ankle. I wonder if he'll try and have that tightrope surgery. Pure speculation, but we've seen other players before go through that to try and get on the field faster. We saw Brock Bowers do that at Georgia last year. So, yeah, the Cowboys, I understand why Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat.
Yeah.
They can't do anything in the playoffs, but also when you watch them, they just seem disjointed. And at least, though, they know to throw it to their main weapon in CeeDee Lamb, who's targeted time after time after time, even consecutively. At least they are able to be smart enough to do that with Kellen Moore as the OC.
Yeah, and I think a lot of their saving grace recent years has been they've been able to run the ball so well, and they just have not been able to find that with Zeke this year. So it'll be interesting to kind of see. He has 16 yards, 6 yards, and 19 yards. You were not going to get much done when that's your leading back's numbers, which we know that here.
Yeah, they should have gotten Derrick Henry, but Jerry Jones said they couldn't afford him, which that doesn't seem possible.
Terry.
Yeah, should have gotten him.
But the other two, obviously, San Francisco and Baltimore, I think would surprise most people starting 1 and 2. And I think that San Francisco's very beat up. They have a lot of issues right now in the injury realm. It feels like Brandon Ayuk, after all of the drama from this offseason, and he made a comment yesterday just saying teams have found different ways to or covering me different or something like that, he said. And it's just wild to see somebody who has been consistently one of the better wide receivers, and then all of this offseason drama from March until literally like a week before the season starts, and then you get almost completely shut down in your first 3 weeks of the NFL season. So that one's interesting. The Baltimore Ravens...
They need McCaffrey, by the way.
And CMC's not there, and so that's huge, because not only in your run game, because you've obviously had still success in your run game, but Christian McCaffrey can do so many different things, and that's the difference. I think the biggest surprise, though, to me, Lauren, is the Ravens, because to me, I don't think the Ravens haven't been missing any massive piece of their offense. I know Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews always deals with injuries off and on, and Isaiah Likely proved himself to be a good tight end last year. So that one to me is so interesting, because they almost like there's not excuses for them. It's just not executing fully through a full game.
And it's crazy because normally the Ravens have such a stout defense, and their defense hasn't been nearly as good as they've been the last 5, 10, 15 years. So, I'm sure that they feel, though, that they can get it right. Yeah. And the 49ers, on the other hand, I'm not sure that they feel like in the short term that they're going to be that much better.
Yeah, and I think especially because they're being figured out. And when you have a coach like Kyle Shanahan, who everybody talks about year in and year out of, it's okay because he can overcome certain deficiencies. And when you lose a game like you did last week to the Rams and you're outcoached by Sean McVay, that's probably not what you want it to look like, especially when other pieces of your team aren't coming together fully. And we've had this conversation, too, of how good is Brock Purdy? Is Brock Purdy a product of Kyle Shanahan and all the offensive weapons? What happens if he doesn't have those? Well, we're kind of seeing it a little bit right now. And not saying he's been terrible. He's had some still good moments, but we're kind of seeing reality come to the 49ers a little bit offensively.
Here are the next four for those three teams. The 49ers play host to the Patriots, so you'd think they'd be able to win that game. Play host to the Cardinals. That one could be back and forth. And then at the Seahawks, and then play host to the Chiefs. So
not an easy path.
No, certainly some tough games. They could go 1-3 in that stretch. Again, without Christian McCaffrey. The Ravens play host to the Bills Sunday night. Then at the Bengals, play host to the Commanders, and then at the Bucks. A little bit easier of a road, especially with the way the Bengals have started the season, but the Bills game is going to be really tough. The Commanders, I think, are a tough out, and now the Bucks look pretty good with Baker. So a little bit easier, I would say, than the 49ers, again, because I also have more faith in the Ravens. And then the Cowboys at the Steelers, home against the Lions, at the 49ers, and then at the Falcons. Cowboys probably have the easiest, I'd say, schedule of those, depending on how you view the 49ers at this point in time.
Yeah, and that's part of it, obviously. And we keep saying it's early, but you're 4 weeks in, so you are starting to see who some of these teams are. By this week and next week, you kind of have a better idea of which teams are really struggling and which maybe just had a rough start, or which one had a lucky start, whatever that may be. Another one that popped out to me, Lauren, in this was, is it time for another young quarterback to be benched? And they talk about Anthony Richardson.
Definitely not getting benched.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But there definitely has to be some concern there. He's completed 49.3% of his passes for 583 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions so far this season. That's terrible. Richardson became the third quarterback since 2000 to complete under 50% of his passes and throw 6 interceptions in a team's first 3 games of a season. The last was Ryan Leaf in 2000, but Richardson also has 2 more 40-yard completions than any other NFL quarterback with 5. That is Anthony Richardson. Like, that is the epitome of what Anthony Richardson is. He can make these crazy, incredible throws down the field where you're like, whew, like how did he even do that? But then he throws one, and a part of this, I was trying to find the quote when he said, because it literally says he threw some passes that high school coaches would chew their quarterbacks out over. That's how it was against Chicago. There was a few throws against the Bears. I know the Bears lost because they couldn't run the ball, but there was a few throws against the Bears where I was like, that was the worst throw I've ever seen in my entire life.
And Anthony Richardson defenders would say he hasn't played a lot of football, so he's
in like 9th start, something like that.
So he's the opposite when it says should a young quarterback be benched. He's the opposite of that because he needs all this experience.
He needs this development.
And the Colts knew what they were getting when they drafted him, is because they saw he barely started in high school, barely started in college, really had a year in college, and now last year had the injury. And they knew, of course, too, that he has been plagued with injuries throughout his career. They were hoping that eventually those 6 interceptions go away, right? The turnovers go away, and he learns the game and it slows down for him and all those things. But yeah, as of now, he's a guy that he's going to have like you said, 60-yard touchdown and then a pick.
Yeah.
And then another, huge
it's a roller
run
coaster.
and then a pick. Yeah.
It's like strap in, Colts fans, because this is going to be a bit of this. And I do think Anthony Richardson, and this was something that I said during the draft process, Anthony Richardson is somebody who a team should have drafted him that had a quarterback he could sit. Anthony Richardson, of any of those quarterbacks, I think, was the one that I think would have benefited the most from sitting behind and learning, because I do think he's way athletic. He's one of the most athletic players in the entire NFL, and some of the things that he can do with his arm are just incredible. But he gets like too antsy almost, and he even made the comment in a press conference that I get too excited. Like, I get too worked up, and when I get too worked up, I make these mistakes. Having time to sit back and like watch someone and learn and develop and not be thrown into like, hey, go win now, I think is important for guys like an Anthony Richardson. And I remember Denny saying it too in college, like, he's really good, and you'll see that in certain aspects of his game. And then other games you're like, he's so in his head and he can't get out of it.
And some people too who defend AR would also say, well, look at who his coach was when he was in college with Billy Napier and the stunted growth that maybe that did for him. You could also argue it the other way, that sitting behind someone would keep him from getting any more experience, and he's gone so long without being
having
a
to
consistent
actually
starter.
play. Yeah,
but at the end of the day,
get hurt.
At the end of the day, he still has more yards than Trevor does, not by much, but a little bit. Trevor at this point only has 560 yards.
He also has one more touchdown, I guess, too, because Trevor only has two passing touchdowns.
Trevor's 2 passing touchdowns,
That's fun.
the 1 interception. Yeah, the stats don't look good, honestly, for either of them. No. And I haven't even pulled up Will Levis's stats.
Yeah, Pete Prisco backtracked on that one a little bit recently.
Look, he had to. Levis has 579 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 picks. So AR and Levis still have more touchdowns than Trevor.
Yeah.
Which, again, if you're in the frame of mind, the optimistic frame of mind for the Jaguars, if it's going to turn around, it's going to turn around this Sunday because they are running out of time. All right. We have our phone lines down, but people can still text in on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosure 641-1010. The first person to answer this question correctly will win the Chick-fil-A giveaway for 2. Who is Taylor Dahl's least favorite player in the NFL? You think that's an easy one?
I feel like it should be. I've only screamed at him on here a few times.
First person to answer that question correctly wins the Chick-fil-A giveaway. We've got one segment to go here on Helmets and Heels on a Sunshine Turf Friday on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Helmets and Heels.
This hour is brought to you by First Coast Honda Dealers.
Here's Linda Beaver.
Hey everyone, it's football season and we wanted to go to the drawing board to make this year's predictions. Let's compare our 2 blonde all-stars. Most touchdowns, best pricing in the market. Most passing yards, gives the most for your trade. Most receptions, free oil changes with every purchase. Super Bowl champion, wow customer service. This looks like a winning season for everyone. Come see Beaver Toyota in St. Augustine or Beaver Chevrolet in Jacksonville, where you can score big all season long.
This right here is as good as it gets. This is life getting lived without obligations or complications. This is filling your cup and savoring the moment. This is the gift of presence, served to you in a place where there's room for everyone and enough to go around. And the best part, it's always Sonny's here. Sonny's Barbecue, local pitmasters since '68.
Mia here, and when I was buying a new construction home last summer, there was no question. Dreamfinders Homes was the builder for me. Last night, Hurricane Helene, it proved to be true. Dreamfinders Homes, the best around. Especially right now, you can take advantage of a 2.99% year one rate. Find your dream home, take advantage of unbeatable rates, and move in today. 2.99% year one rate, folks. You won't find it anywhere else. Dreamfinders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's a Sunshine Turf Friday. The highest quality artificial turf at affordable prices. Visit sunshineturf.info today.
Have you or someone you care about been arrested or had their driver's license taken away? I'm Susan Cohen, and I work with David Robbins at the law firm of Epstein & Robbins. We are experienced fighters for those charged with DUI and all criminal offenses. I've been named the best DUI attorney in the state, and David has been named the best criminal defense lawyer in Jacksonville. In your battle with the justice system, there is only one thing you need to know. Dial David 24/7 at Epstein & Robbins, 354-5645.
Duck Rooter provides plumbing, septic, and air conditioning services across the First Coast. We have the ability to travel straight to you when you need it most. We have our community covered. Duck Rooter technicians are your neighbors, friends, and family. We know you best. Understand what sets us apart from the rest. When you're stuck, call the Duck. 904-862-6769 or visit duckduckrooter.com.
Everything about the game has changed, except for the most important thing. What you have inside. It is what drives the game. It refuses to be ignored. It sweats everything, turns an athlete into a legend. Gatorade, is it in you?
From Gatorade Zero to Gatorade Endurance Formula and Gator Light, there's something for every athlete. Find it at your local Winn-Dixie. It's a win-win. Gatorade, official partner of the NFL.
When it comes to selling your home, it can be stressful. Take the stress out with my friends, Chad and Sandy Newman. Maybe you're worried you won't sell your home for the price you need. How's this for a guarantee? Chad and Sandy guarantee your home sold at an agreed-upon price and deadline, or they'll buy it. No required costly repairs. Pick your move date. There are no long-term contracts, and you can cancel at any time. Mortgage rates are down, creating more active buyers and sellers, and if you've been waiting, now is a great time to sell your home. Take Kim in Palm Coast. I needed to move closer to family ASAP, but I had to sell my Palm Coast home first. I tried and failed with another agent. So my family said, you got to call Chad and Sandy. Well, sure enough, as promised, Chad and Sandy did it. They sold my home in 3 days, above asking price. Call the local Jacksonville experts I trust and recommend. Call Chad and Sandy today at 904-414-6200 or go to chadandsandy.com. That's Chad, ANDSANDY.com.
Start your Sunday off with a cup of Joe and some sports medicine intel. This is Joe C. inviting you to join me and Dr. George Bari for Breaking Bones every Sunday morning at 7:30. And if you miss an episode, just look for Breaking Bones wherever you listen to podcasts.
Atlantic Self-Storage, the official storage partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Need to make room to watch football in your home or need a place to park your boat or RV? Store it all at Atlantic Self-Storage. Over 50 locations in Northeast Florida. 24-hour access, all with month-to-month leases. Moving, they can help with supplies. They make storage easy. Go to AtlanticSelfStorage.com or call 877-WE-STORE to find a storage solution near you. Go Jags!
SportsForecaster.com has all the data you need to project tomorrow's winners. Register for free and track the performance of all your favorite players and teams, including all your fantasy team picks and prospects. Sports Forecaster has the most detailed player profiles on the web, precise depth charts, every transaction, every injury, every news update. No ranting or raving, no preening or barstool bluster. At SportsForecaster.com, you get the timely info you need for every game. SportsForecaster.com. Sign up for free today.
Hey, Hicken here. Are you tired of having your carpets professionally cleaned only to have them looking dingy again? Zero Res can help. I'll tell you what, they have the technology. Zero Res uses its patented ZR water that cleans beautifully without using any soaps, detergents, or shampoos. That means zero residue left behind. And guess what? Zero Res falling back in time for September. 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $129, and we'll clean a 4th room for free. That's right. The 4th room is on me. Zero Res, man. Spell it forward. Zero Res, spell it backwards. It's a right way to clean.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, head team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's the latest update on the Jags, brought to you by Baptist Health and JOI.
Coming up this afternoon at the stadium, the Jaguars are holding a special media event with Tom Coughlin, Tony Baselli, and Fred Taylor. The Jaguars legends will meet the media today, ahead of Tom Coughlin going into the Pride of the Jaguars next Sunday. Jaguars head coach Doug Peterson was asked this week about what he remembers from Tom Coughlin's teams.
I was on teams that played, when Coach Coughlin was here, and then of course when he was in New York. They're going to be physical football teams. It was one of those games where, as you say, you had to wear your big boy pants.
Coughlin will be inducted into the Pride of the Jaguars next Sunday. I'm Andrew Gibson with your Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Jaguars update.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, the cool down from the cool guys at Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing. Fast, reliable, and honest service since '87.
I'm going to cool down with the fact that the Jaguars need to heat up. And that is offensively and defensively. To me, this game matters so much because you may not make the playoffs at this point. You already started 0-3. We all know the stats and how they're really dwindling at this point to even make the playoffs after you start 0-2. But for me now, it's just about confidence. It's about holding your head high. It's about taking down a team that all offseason was told that they were the best in the AFC South. It's about walking into a locker room post-game and wanting to talk to reporters because you just won, even if it's a 1-point game. You won in Houston last year. You can certainly do it again. Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, Brian Thomas Jr. You have weapons. The offensive line has to protect Trevor. And yes, he has to have the awareness to not leave the pocket at times, to not sail throws over receivers' heads. He has to play better, but everybody collectively has to play better. And then certainly Ryan Nielsen's group, man coverage, CJ Stroud doesn't love man coverage. He's better against zone. So this is your time, even though you've got a lot of backups in on that defense, this is your time to go into Houston and to walk out with a victory.
Yeah, and I think there's two sides to this because when you're talking about we know the position the Jags are in. You're 0-3. It looks like it's just a mess right now. It looks like there's a lot of people not on the same page. A lot of things. But it is time to where a game like this, a divisional game, like you said, against someone who all offseason was the talk of the town, can bring things, at least calm things a little bit and be like, it's okay. You have the pieces. You have what it takes. Now just make it more consistent. But at the same time, Houston, everybody's telling them, like, what's going on? Like, you are not the team that you told us. Actually, CJ Stroud, you told us that you were this team, and we haven't seen that yet. And so they're hearing that also, especially coming off of the loss they did to the Vikings. So I do think there is an extra fire under the Texans, too, because they're looking at this like, no way we can lose to this Jacksonville Jaguars team right now, who just got beat by 37 points in Buffalo. Like, that's where their mind is. So I think for the Jags, too, getting on the same page and we've used the word simplify so much this week, but I feel like that's the best way to say it right now. Simplify things for Trevor, simplify things for the offense and the defense. We don't need players changing every 2 seconds on the defensive line and in the linebackers. Use your strongest players, have them on the field. Obviously right now you're going to be without Foye Oluokun, which is a massive hit. So you need even more steadiness up there than you would probably other times when it comes to that linebacker room. And so put the players where they play the best. Stop trying to do weird things and do all these experiments. Put Eric Armstead in the middle because that's where he gets his most pressures. That's where he's always gotten the most pressures. So let him be that guy that we saw him at the 49ers of being able to kind of wreak havoc up the middle because that creates so much more opportunity for other guys like Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. And so there's just things like that where it's like, stop making it too complicated. It shouldn't be that difficult to at least slow down offenses, especially one that's potentially missing key pieces to how they've functioned.
Yeah, if the Texans don't have Tank Dell and Nico Collins, Joe Mixon was back at practice like we mentioned earlier, but if they don't have those two receivers, who's CJ Stroud's go-to at that point in time? Ventrell Miller, Chad Muma, Devin Lloyd, it seems like he will play. Those guys have to play really well against the Texans, and certainly Stroud has mobility too, so they've got to be able to contain him. I think the most important thing is you've got to start fast. The way you started against the Dolphins, whatever it took, whatever you did before that game in Miami, somehow summon that because you need that against Houston. If you can
getting
go up,
Tyreek arrested, if that
exactly right, that must have ended up helping the Dolphins, I guess. But the way that the offense was functioning in the first half, it was running on all cylinders for those 2 quarters. Channel that energy, bring that to Houston, get up by a touchdown or two, and then take your chances.
Yeah, because I think that we've seen and I mentioned this the other day, we've seen that when Trevor kind of has his back against the wall is when the worst mistakes are made. When it's that moment where you have to complete this third down, when you have to get this red zone score, when you have to do this, are the moments where it feels like at least these last 8-9 games where things haven't gone well. So you don't want to put him in that position. And if you start fast, to your point, Lauren, if you start fast and you get up 7-10 points, then he doesn't have to feel like that, and he can play more free because we heard Dan Orlovsky talk about it, how he feels like he's playing was that the word? Tight. Yeah. He's playing tight, and I think some of that is because he feels like he has to do everything. And so if you if you get ahead and you make it so that Trevor doesn't feel like he has to do everything, that's when you see the free Trevor, and that's when you see the plays that are more consistent and him connecting with multiple weapons throughout the game rather than there was a stat yesterday about how many times he's gone to his first read. Taking that time, and you don't have 4 seconds right now to do it, but you can go through your progressions a little quicker because you're not in your head of having to make this 3rd and 12 to even get to the first down. You put yourself in positions where you're up, and let's take your time. Get it to a 3rd and 6 or a 2nd and 6, and then make it at least shorter so you're not having to convert these massive long 3rd downs, which they've been in a lot of 3rd and 9s or longer, and you don't want to constantly put your offense in that position.
Yeah, stay ahead of the chains. That would be a good thing to do. And the other thing I'd like to see, I don't think we've seen that much Devin Duvernay to this point, and he is a super fast guy. He's agile. Get him the ball. Maybe do a trick play. And I know that this is not college football where that certainly is something that coaches will pull out of their toolbox when needed. But
Ben Johnson was doing it this last weekend. There were some crazy things happening.
Yeah, there are some teams that at times will look to do something like that in the NFL. Like at this point, you have nothing to lose, really. I mean, you're already going down the drain at this point based off of how things looked on Monday night. Mix it up a little bit. And we used to talk about this with Blake Bortles. We would always call it backyard football. Bortles was at his best when he was playing pretty much off-schedule backyard football, having fun. I cannot believe that we're even talking about this with Trevor because he's so much more talented than Bortles. Yeah. But they do need to enable him to play a little bit more free. Like free Trevor should not be something that we're having to say, right? But it does feel like he
not free Trevor out of Jacksonville.
Exactly. It does feel though like he is not having fun. And look,
it doesn't feel like anybody's having fun right now. Honestly.
If I was getting beat up as much as he is back there, I wouldn't be having fun either.
Yeah, and I think that goes for as a whole. You see the teams. I just mentioned the video of Buffalo singing and dancing. When you get to that level, and we saw that's what felt like the 2017 team was, obviously, but even the end of 2022, that's what it felt like. Everybody felt like they were having a good time, and obviously winning helps that. But I do think that even playing good football helps that. Like there's times when you come out of a loss and you're like, okay, we lost, but you played hard and everybody did their job. It was just unfortunate if this one thing wouldn't have happened, it would have turned the other way. Yes, and for the first half at least. But I feel like, especially the last 2 weeks, it wasn't that feeling whatsoever. It was more so that was a disaster and nothing went right.
Yep, and that is going to have to be fixed on Sunday if you want to have any chance. Because, hey, if you win on Sunday, you're 1-0 in the AFC South, and you have a game up on the Texans. Before we say hello to XL Primetime, Taylor, 2 reminders. 1, you will be at Monkeys on Sunday at 1 o'clock. So Monkeys in Jax Beach, come hang out with Taylor and watch the Jags play the Texans. And also Sunday morning, you and I will join Hayes Carline on the kickoff show.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I haven't done the kickoff show. I think I did it week 18, which that was fun. That was a great time. We and Tom McManus hosted the kickoff show that time. I've never hosted with Hayes Carline. I've never been on a show with Hayes Carline. So this is my first time. Yeah, that'll be a first, which will be fun. But yes, Monkey's Uncle also will be having a watch party. A ton of giveaways. We'll have all sorts of, we'll have gift cards, Jags tickets, gift cards to Monkey's Uncle. We'll also have some 10-10 swag to be giving away. So come watch the game, hang out. I heard maybe some other people from 10-10 will come up and watch the game too. So that'll be fun. I also did want to mention, because the winner from our little quick trivia we did earlier, which was Jeffrey Newton. He won, but it was funny because the question was, who is the player that Taylor hates the most in the NFL? And it was just immediately Aaron Rodgers flood on the text line.
Our listeners pay attention.
I was like, if you don't get this one, I feel like maybe I should be more vocal about my hatred towards Aaron Rodgers.
And the funny part is, you said someone answered Derek Carr, and
that is you.
I don't hate Derek Carr. You hate
People
Aaron
probably
Rodgers.
think you hate Derek Carr.
I don't hate Derek Carr. I've never hated Derek Carr. I just assessed that he wasn't a very good quarterback, and I thought the Raiders would struggle with him at quarterback.
Yeah.
And through the first 2 weeks this season with the Saints, things are going well. It didn't go well last season. But Derek Carr, I don't think, is like the answer at quarterback.
You're not like, I would hit Aaron Rodgers with my car. That's where I'm at on that level.
Oh, man, that would be a crime there, so let's not do that. All right, let's say hello to XL Primetime.
Now, the 2-minute drill, brought to you by Injury Care Centers. Discover BioTarget Regenerative Therapy, a safer drug-free solution for lasting pain relief. Visit GoBioTarget.com.
Matt Hayes joins us now. Yes, you just walked into
What did
Taylor
I just walk into here?
I was talking about Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers, and then I said I don't think Derek Carr is the answer at quarterback, and Taylor said I would hit Aaron Rodgers with my car.
There's no doubt you would.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt
Right,
about it.
and I just
Not even a
had
question.
to let her know that is a crime.
If Aaron Rodgers and Brian Kelly were walking across the street
Both of
together,
them,
I
right.
may speed up.
What if you could only take one of them out?
Aaron first.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron first.
Yeah, for sure. Matt,
Should we even be talking
I
about
know. I'm like maybe going to jail later. So
Good.
Taylor's been watching the Menendez brothers
Yes.
documentary or series.
maybe
so
sprouting this.
That's part of the problem. Matt, let's get it to college football.
Those are two, uneasy people.
yeah, but their parents were too. That's what we were
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
This Netflix thing is wild. It's wild.
Yeah, she was filling me in. Let's get it to college football. We had Roger Hoover on earlier, who works for Alabama, so certainly he likes Alabama in the game. I asked him if he thinks that the Alabama fan base is going to be off the Kalen DeBoer train if Alabama loses to Georgia, because we saw when Nick Saban and Alabama lost to Texas in September of last year, people wanted Nick Saban fired. So will they be immediately off of the Kalen DeBoer train? He said no. I think you still will see people calling up the Paul Feinbaum show and asking for a different coach.
Right, but those aren't really
Those aren't the normal fans.
that's not really reality, okay?
Correct.
Those are people that want to run over Aaron Rodgers with their car. No offense.
It's
No
okay.
offense. But I of course there will be people like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if Alabama beats Georgia, there's going to be people like, well, you couldn't beat Nick, and now you can't beat Caleb.
Yep.
So believe me, that it's either side. That's the way college football is. That's the beauty of it.
It is the beauty
That
of
is
it.
the beauty of the sport, because it's just that's the one difference between college football and the NFL. The passion level of college football is just elevated to ridiculous extremes.
Who do you think is the X factor in the game?
I mean, Jalen Milroe and Carson Beck. What I always say is every time when you have a mega game, typically best quarterback wins. This is the game Carson Beck came back for.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason he came back.
So there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders.
Yeah, and
It's
there's a
crazy
lot of
environment.
pressure on Jalen Milroe too. And Jalen Milroe is one of those dudes that likes the game in his hands, wants the game in his hands. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited about the game. And that's what we were talking about too, because I was just saying if this game, when we talk about the reverse, if they win, if Alabama beats Georgia, just the mindset in Alabama of the fans and the players officially being like, okay, Kalen DeBoer is it. Do you think it happens that quick with a win?
If Alabama wins?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I think they're there now,
Mm-hmm.
but I think with a win, it's just going to reaffirm this is our dude. This is our guy. We're going forward with him. Now, you get later in the season and get an upset here or there, or you lose in the playoff, there will definitely be people that say, well, Nick wouldn't have lost that game. And I know Kalen knows that. And it's the reality of the situation. It's just where you are.
It certainly is. What's coming up?
We're going to talk a lot of college ball. We're going to talk some Jags and the unknown horizon of 0-4. What in the world happens if it hits 0-4? Because there's like a glimmer of, all right, well, you're 0-3. You win a couple here.
Right.
Maybe you get this win. You go to London. You pull a couple off like you did last year. Then all of a sudden, you're 3-3 and everything's good. You go to 0-4. Get it.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Or is there personnel changes if they're 0-4?
I don't think so. What are you going to do? I mean, who are you going to play? Right?
Or are you talking about front office coaching?
Yeah. Well, anywhere, coaching,
you mean I think if they go to 0-4, there's a very good chance that somebody's going to get fired. Be it, be it Phil Rauscher, be it Balky. I don't know that you fired Doug Peterson yet, but I mean, 0-4 with this team and this talent, that's a big, big drop off.
It sure is. All right. Thanks, Matt. We'll be listening tonight as well.
No show tonight.
No show tonight.
No show tonight.
Okay.
Yep. Off tonight. Gators
All right.
off tonight.
So next week.
Next week.
All right.
Back. College football kickoff.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
See you guys.
All right. Once again, Taylor and I will be with you Sunday morning, joining Hayes Carlin on the kickoff show. For Taylor Dahl, for RJ Saunders, for the absent Mia O'Brien, I'm Lauren Brooks. These heels are made for talking. We will talk to you on